All right, welcome back to The Devil in Detail, the Grendel Reread podcast. I'm Eli.
I'm Ben, and it's our 50th issue.
50th issue episode.
Our 50th issue. It's got a hologram NFT on the cover. This is
NFT
the 7th
for sale
issue.
at Cosmic Lion, crypto.com.
Crypto.gov. This is Grendel's Legacy number 7. We're at the halfway point of Christine Sparr's story.
Yes, we are.
Thankfully, I located my Kamikos.
Finally.
I was delighted.
And this is a crazy one. And as we were talking about, it is inked by the Panders, which is super cool.
It's a real high watermark in the series. Before we get too much into it, Eli, tell me about your creative and wonderful week.
Well, one thing I wanted to talk about first is we made some fun connections with Jay Geldof and the Panders over some questions last week. So that was really cool to chat with them on Instagram and talk about that. I wanted to quickly shout out Brennan and Matt, who showed off these amazing Grendel Devil's Legacy sweatshirts, 80s airbrush, cool sweatshirts. I'll put it on the screen right now. Those were so sick. They got me super excited. And, Matt and Brennan, if you're listening and have an extra one, I can always use another Grendelin. Our YouTube and my YouTube, I am 1 subscriber away. Yep, of course, someone's coming in.
That was the 300th subscriber.
Hey, I wish we have 299 subscribers. So if you're into being our 300th subscriber, hit me up. I was gonna holler out to some of our new subscribers. I like how some people do that. Michael Wagner is a new one. Let's see. Shout out to Gabriel Jimenez. Shout out to Kevin Still, some of our new subscribers. Eric Medine. So if you want to be the 300th subscriber, do it. Press that subscribe button and we'll send you out a Grendel zine. Jason Barons, we still owe you one as well, but we'll get that out to you. My week, it's been crazy. I'm, collecting and starting this new comic series for Webtoon with the dudes Craig, Rick, and Burgess, Citizens of Elonia. I showed you my first strip, and so this week I spent a bunch of time creating what I call the source book, my Bible with character bios, and I actually made a world map and named continents, descriptions of the continents, the types of people that are on those continents, different. All right. Different, different, locales and locations and city names and people and all this stuff. So that's been really cool and fun to work with. So I'm excited to move forward with that. We got new projects in the undulators for the Image Grand Design crew, and just continuing to work. There's a new zine that I'm putting out quickly called the 30 Days of April O'Neil zine, where a bunch of people, I'm working with this dude, Dan Connor. Yeah. And it was his idea. He recovered from cancer recently and he wanted to use this opportunity. He said that drawing Aprils during his chemo helped him get through it. And so he's better now, and he wanted to do this zine, and we're going to raise all the money from it is going to cancer charities. So that's going to be really fun and cool. The Ween zine is so very close. It's 1 page away from being done and off at the printers. I'm working. I'm going to do a hard, the first time I'm doing a hard proof, because I want to use actual newsprint. I want to get it newsprint. It's in the vein of an EC comic, so I want it to look like that. So it's going to be super awesome. So just a bunch of stuff, nonstop work. What about you, Ben? What you been working on, man? I've been seeing some great stuff with you. And Arcane, our work with Arcane.
Our work on Arcane is going really, really cool. We commissioned a top secret line artist and color artist for a variant cover that's going to be super, super cool. And I say that because I mocked it up and did the layout. So I'm very excited to see what those guys were way better than me come up with. So I did that, worked on a lot of wizard stuff. I I am
Right.
working on my Brian Talbot interview. I'm very graciously receiving. I receive one email a day from Brian Talbot because I looped back with a short list of emails. He says, "I will send you one answer a day," so I get a daily email from
Oh,
Brian
that's
Talbot.
amazing. That's so cool.
Well, he's very gracious to do it.
Yeah.
And I am wrapping up the new Kickstarter for the summer issue of, what is it called? Monkeys Fighting Robots.
Oh, right.
This is the winter one. The summer fun Kickstarter is actually launching tomorrow. So I am wrapping up inks on my page, which is another page that I wrote with my grandfather
That's right.
about his service in the Korean War. And I have to color a panel or two by the end of the day to help with that Kickstarter launch, supposedly.
Awesome.
So I'm doing very good. I'm going to wrap that up, and then I have this drawing for you that's on my desk that I have to find.
The Turtles one?
The Turtles.
And
then
that's so cool, dude.
I have pages from Weapon Ek, the Make More Comics grant benefit, Barry Windsor Smith tribute study book.
So cool.
Say that 5 times fast.
I can't wait for that, man. It's gonna be so cool.
I have a bunch of pages, and one of them is like at the end. There's like a page that's just like it's like light falling on a glacier, and no one wanted it. I was like, I can't believe no one wanted this page, so I'm gonna.
That's fun.
I'll do that one, but I think I'm gonna find ways to fit those in because I'm gonna start inking Oh Fuck Why #2. Hopefully on Monday. Today's Friday, so we'll see.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. The devil is our friend. Let us rumble.
Yeah. Vivat Random. It's like the devil is my best friend. 100 rows with the pen to the fork end, or till time end. Like Orion, Jupiter, my kin, bloodline private. We control the whole shit. The wolf won't beef, then we feast off the rip. Behold the devil in detail. Behold the devil in detail.
All right, we are back. Thank you, Manus and Laserdisc as well. We are getting into floppies. We both got our Kamikos ready for Chapter 7.
I feel
Inked
like
by the Panders.
I feel like we've been a little negligent on the covers in the last 2 issues. I blame myself for having lost my Kamiko floppies.
Right.
The cover last issue was unbelievable with the Venetian blinds and the mouth and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, like I didn't even notice the face that was hidden in it, like in the blinds and in everything. Oh, it was amazing.
This one's crazy. It reminds me of like Japanese tattooing, like if you like walking into like a tattoo parlor.
Oh yeah.
In the 80s, especially with this like screaming feral kitty cat going on. But the thing that I like the most is are the kabuki musicians who are lined up all around it. It's such a like interesting design choice because it really kind of puts that like the drum beat kind of gets in your head or something.
Right.
It's so
cool. They're like playing like, what is that called? I'm not even.
Is it like a banjo or something like that?
It looks like it, yeah, but it's an Asian instrument that
a lute.
Something like that, yeah.
Each of these musicians is actually slightly different. Like one dude on the back is smoking a bone. They got different hairdos, and there's like one Gasian guy.
Yeah, they really drew. They probably drew one line and redid it 3 times, but still they drew the full line.
It really captures this like theatrical kabuki thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Great job, Panders. Another. You do good work. We like you very much. So
Matt's cover ain't bad either.
They're all great.
Yeah, they're all good.
We come in and I mean, just as we left off the last time, Tujiro and Nicolo bust in. Tujiro through the window, Nicolo through the front door. They're ready for battle. They're like, I never doubted I would find you, Miss Spar. You think I can't smell you doesn't mean I can't find you. You're Nicolo's like, I kind of got this like a Laurel and Hardy, like a big guy, little comedy team. These guys are like, he's like, well, I'm not afraid. He's like, shut up, Nicola. You know, there's this little like pretty funny. I thought it was just like a funny
He's just this
back and forth.
disgusting, weird fashion creep.
Yeah.
Now he's finally getting his moment to shine. The Pander's inks here, when I looked at it, it's sort of hard to tell what it reminds me of. I was thinking of things like Fist of the North Star, like proto image comp. Like it's not hard to imagine them doing like an image book along the lines of like the Mike Grell Shaman's Tears book or something, something like that. But the kind of the hallmark of what they do is, for me, is like this texture that's like when leather is stretched across, like the highlights in leather stretched across flesh.
Right.
And we'll see that a bunch of times. They look great. I wonder how much time they had to do this issue. Because
you think it seems like they spent a lot of time getting the lines perfect.
It just seems like between like, you know, there's three inkers on this series.
Right.
You know, Jay Geldof does a tremendous job. Rich Rankin was obviously under the gun, and it just seems like in order to make this issue happen, where the art is at a much higher, like that, it wasn't an accident. You know, it must have been like, all right, let's schedule out. Now that we're in a groove, let's like schedule out a block of time where we can give you 7 weeks instead of 3.5, or you know, whatever.
Right. And again, I'm really interested to talk with them about the you know, the split of the work, like who's doing pencils, who's doing inks, are they both doing a little bit of each? I think there was something about it in the interview. I can't recall it at the moment.
Yeah,
but that's definitely something we're gonna.
I think a part of it said like a part of the rapport was just knowing, not having to like debate about whose strengths and weaknesses overlap or end or begin where,
right.
And just being like, all right, like we know how to they know how to read each other's minds, and like one's better at the figures, one's better at the backgrounds, one's better at the layouts, one's better at like the action directing, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. You know? And I think they really do look at it like a film. You know, they're setting up shots, they're doing it like that. And just okay, so you know, they're kind of like taunting her, and Christine can feel Brian's breath. He's the one who's nervous, who's scared. This is great right here. She's like, I'm not. I'm patient. I'm directed. I'm Grendel. Another killer spread. Oh man.
Yeah, this is a wild spread because it's a double page spread.
Yeah.
But there is a gutter, but it doesn't. It's a gutter that kind of cheats the 180-degree rule.
Yes,
it doesn't need to be there, but it is.
Yeah, and it like exactly. It's two panels, but really like it's one, but it's kind of like maybe a long hallway, and we just got the two ends, and we're just like putting them together, kind of thing.
I think it's like the comic book equivalent of in theater what they call cheating out. You know what that is? Where you're facing whoever you're speaking to, but your body is angled so that you're actually facing the audience.
Facing the audience, gotcha.
Right?
Yeah,
so it's sort of like the equivalent to that, where they're sort of maximizing the coverage of what they can show by doing this really interesting, like they're squishing the space together with that gutter. Really cool.
Yeah, it's like an Art Deco gutter too. It almost gets.
It's got a drop shadow.
Yeah, exactly. It almost gets lost in the Dark Horse a little bit. It's like much darker again in the Dark Horse, whereas in the Kamiko it's kind of like bright and poppy. But
maybe. I mean, it's the same. I think there's more contrast in the Dark Horse. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
You know,
we got like an almost proto Siggy here with the TV, the little TV on. I love this guy.
Oh yeah.
He's watching on.
Don't they say the TV weighs 600 pounds, or did you say that?
No, they do. They say that later when he chucks it at her.
It's so weird.
So they're just taunting each other, throwing stuff back and forth. Like, you know, you're, and I got you. You're more than what I expected, but you're like a leech. That's it. You're a leech. And Nicola's like, some leeches are deadly, and she's like, bitch. And then
it's like a wrestling match where they taunt each other.
Exactly. And then we got a classic, you bitch. It's Yule who shudder in fear. And so, they're just taunting. Like, obviously, they both invest in the showmanship of battle. It's clear. You know, that's a part of Grendel. And for Tujiro, he is a showman, as we've talked before. While he's here to suckle blood and eat eyeballs, he does put on the show every night. Let us not forget.
Yeah. It's sort of interesting where like, where does the roots of like the pulp tradition end?
Right.
And the kabuki characterization begin?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So we go from spread to spread. I mean, they continue. Oh, okay. So she's like, and you'll never get it all. You got to attack it from within. Wipe it out. Your entourage is about to explode. And then even from here, we could feel it. These 4 buses, their tour buses, explode. And it shakes the city. Tujiro staggered and howled. You know, he does have this kind of, again, preternatural connection to his team, to his people. He can feel it, like, and it hurts him, you know.
Interesting.
And she smiled. I love this. Like in the Dark Horse, they whited this line coming up, this like eyebrow line coming up from Christine on the right. But in the Dark Horse, or in the Kimiko, sorry, it's blue. Interesting.
Oh,
addition.
It's a little highlight in the mask.
Right.
Yeah. The both editions look. The explosion looks really cool.
Very cool.
The big difference is that it's just there's a few more bells and whistles with Photoshop. It's very very similar. You know, there's a little bit of airbrushing and all that, and
like it's smoother transition, but
yeah. Well, also
fine.
You know, the inset panels are all blue, and so there's a higher level of contrast with the red instead of the purple. You know.
Yeah.
The way the treatment of the hose that's been hooked up to the sink is and also the way it interacts with the sound effect is very like, for all the like hardcore badass pulp stuff, there's a lot of like playful and cartoony elements in this book, in particular in this one. Look at Niccolo, for example.
Yeah.
But there's fun to be had everywhere. Well done.
And again, it's just incredibly creative panel layouts that, like, this spread, like, there's not a one square panel, you know, and yet there's 6 panels.
Yeah, and there's also no images
7
that repeat each other. It's very It's like very efficient. There's no redundant imagery.
Ugh, great stuff. I'm finding that I read this a very long time ago for the first time, 15 years ago, maybe. And I'm seeing these little things I do. Like, I feel like I've done, you know, like panel elements interacting with effects and not subconsciously connecting it with the impact that this and the Panders had on me originally, you know? Like when I probably first saw this, my mind was blown, and I immediately adapted it into my own style, and I forget that these little things and where I get it is the Panders.
But can you imagine seeing it in 1987? You know, because like,
no, man.
You know, the books that we think of that from that era are all on grids. It's all Zappa, 16-panel grid, Frank Miller. The panel shapes, especially these first 3, are just like, they're just out of control.
It's amazing.
It's getting blown apart. It's really wild.
And on the next page, the panel border is the water spray.
Oh, cool.
You know, and so she found out, remember, on the roof outside Brian Lee Sung's across the street, she found out that water hurts him. So she like set up the hose and she sprays him and he's like, rah! And it almost has this opposite effect. Like it makes him like this feral, like perhaps he loses control over his human form that he's like holding on to, and it causes him stress or something, you know,
his Mogwai form.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You think that's like a Asian vampire thing, the water thing, or is that just like, hey, we'll just do that?
I don't know, because I think he's much more than like a vampire. Again, I think I said last week, he's not like a Dracula, you know, he's some sort of combination of like a werewolf and a vampire, and I think he's his own type of kabuki monster.
Uber creature.
Exactly.
He's tapped into the uber creature evilness of this universe.
Exactly. Which is always like a little bit more, like Argent's a little bit more than a human wolf, a werewolf. He's like, Matt really created his own type of mythology with these types of beings. He howled like a dying cat. He still didn't know how much pain it would cause him. Maybe only discomfort, but this pain inflicted sets Christine off on her ravage. Like, she is now wielding that fork, and it's great because we immediately think of like the 80s and how big Wolverine is, and he's got the claws. She cuts his damn hand right off, and she's like, what a stupid weapon, almost like throwing some shade on Wolverine, who was most likely one of the biggest comic book draws at this point.
Great sound effect.
Oh yeah, coming out of his disgusting mouth.
Very. I like the whacked, the splattered.
Oh yeah, right when she cuts his hand off.
Yeah, his mouth. Yeah, all the angles on this. I think we were when they were on the roof, we were talking about how every panel like these are simple, wide, right-angled, rectangular panels, and so you break and you hit different angles, and it's like very direct in like how like this is being effective and
absolutely
stuff like that.
And that affects the pacing, like bam, 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 cuts off some of his precious brush top, cracks him, knocks his stupid sunglasses off. If I was Brian Lee Sung, I'd be like, I'll take this. Those are sweet.
Yeah, less. Yeah. Look at how in 4 his chin overlaps his arm in 5.
Right.
And then in 5, his hair still breaks the panel up above. So it's
again, yeah.
it's all like interwoven and really chaotic and really, really cool.
Yeah. And the Shiraz sound effect is and the like, is it still called foreshortening where it's going backwards, like his arm is there?
Which panel?
Panel 5, like how he's like up like this and his arm is like back like this. Like that's really cool.
I think I think that because of the shape of his jacket, of his giant David Byrne coat, it's a little hard to tell. One thing that I love is Tom Vincent's work in the Shiraz panel.
Yeah.
Like really the hot highlight that he puts on her mask, and then there's 2 little blues that kind of gradate into the black. Very nice.
Super cool.
That's one place in general where Tom Vincent has the upper hand on Jeremy Cox.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like putting like a hot or a warm highlight on the rim of her of her vinyl or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Cox frequently doesn't push it as hard, which is strange because you'd think that he would be coloring it looking at the original. Obviously he was in a lot of places and being like, I'll adjust this, but there's some places where, if it ain't broke.
Exactly. Like you'd want to keep the great example that he set out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the blinds as a background is incredibly dynamic. Just in every panel that there's blinds. It's just great.
Well, it's that thing that it's like the sound that they make when they bend. It's almost like metal echoing.
Yeah. It's like,
a little bit. So you can really, yeah. So every time you look at it, you can just like sort of feel it. And like, you don't want to touch it because it you can cut yourself on or something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Next page, we see this naked, furry Tujiro lupining out, or maybe even like felining out a little more. Like, as we'll see later. But like, I feel like this could not be inked by anyone else and be so brutal and savage. Like the Pander's work here is a beautiful.
Yeah, this was the panel that I was thinking about. Just like the muscle in his belly, in the side of his belly, the way the light hits it, and there's these these rounded patches of hatch marks. I want to give it in this first panel to Jeremy Cox.
Yeah,
because the contrast, he just like pops way the fuck out.
He really does, yeah. Because with the darker background, it really makes him stand out. And I mean, there's probably 2, 3, 4 shades of like blue, light blue, kind of purple in the omnibus in the Dark Horse, Jeremy Cox. Beautiful. Gosh. And his breathing was ragged, heaving, his eyes smoldering like burning flesh. Like he's mad and Christine's happy about it. She's getting to him and she knows that, I don't know if she has the upper hand, but she's inching towards that upper hand.
Yeah. If you look at the highlight in the eyeball between the two different editions,
yeah, completely different almost.
Yeah, it looks like the airbrush kind of blows out some of the detail. But Tom Vincent's doing, he's got two different grays in the shadow area, and it kind of helps the veins pop out a little bit, the veins and the eyelids and stuff like that. Very cool.
And so Christine's about to light him up. She fires up the fork. And she's like, she starts to complain that the charge of this doesn't last very long. It's got 1980s batteries in it, and even for Grendel, he didn't have lithium ion. He only had, I don't know, even Hunter didn't have the best batteries, so she needs to get it back on the charger pretty soon. Update it perhaps with some.
This is the same color treatment that Tom Vincent gave those highlights.
Yeah,
it's super super hot.
Oh yeah, okay.
Blown out from the electricity. Looks great.
Okay, and so she next page, she has a quick glance at Brian. Brian is like not as scared as she thought he would be. He's kind of like surveying the room, We're kind of seeing a little bit more of Brian's character, his level of fear. I mean, he seems like he's kind of taking it in stride. And that's when she takes a second to look at Brian, but then she looks right back at Tujiro, who is like screaming, snarling, "You witch! I think first I shall carve out your brain so as to eat your eyes from behind." Oof.
Gosh. Your eyes from behind. Oh my God. All right, great.
Yeah.
I think BLS is just waiting to see when he's going to get to use his Taekwondo.
Exactly. And that's when freaking crazy man nubs him, wraps his nub around his shoulder. And well, Christine's like, "Come on, motherfucker." She like Neo's him, like, "Come on," and that's when Nub City over here, Brush Nub wraps his arm around Brian, and Brian's like, "Oh shit." France 2004 poster in the background.
He loves his France 2004.
He loves that. He had a great time there in 2004. Jeremy Cox really highlights it too. Sorry, guys. Brian's
got the blood spatter in Kamiko on his forearm around his face. That's really cool because it just looks like some crazy fine detail.
Mm-hmm. And they took it completely out for the Dark Horse and for the
It's really weird because it's just like there's no holding lines. That's Tom Vincent being like, "All right, here, and here."
And again, one of the things Tom Vincent said too, he was like, "I was 25. I was so young. We were all young,
Right.
And so there's a
that's what
there's like exactly. There's like an ability to just like go for it with no fear, which I love. I freaking love it.
And that's like what I think works about this book is that it's all verve.
Right.
Like the you're reading this pulpy text, and to me that's kind of like less interesting than just like the balls to the wall energy that everyone's putting into it.
Yeah.
Does
your Kamiko have like a stray line next to panel 2? Tujiro's like up his open face.
Yes.
That's crazy. Interesting.
That might be like a test the brush.
Yeah, exactly. Like they thought they would take it out or something.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the great scene where poor old Proto Siggy TV man here, he just grabs him. It must weigh 500 or 600 pounds. What is in there that way? Nah.
Not plasma.
Not plasma. Yeah, that cathode ray tube is heavy. His legs are heavy. And Tujiro just picks it up and wings it at her, and it flies at her with no problem. And here's where Brian is like, dude. And that's when she heard Nicolo groan. Brian, bam, slam, throws him across the room. And that's it for Nicolo. Check him out. And it basically reduces him to like a sniveling toad for the rest of any other time we see him. And meanwhile, in the next page, Tujiro hurls himself at Christine. And this is where it really picks up. But this is where we kind of see him changing, Ben.
Oh, he turns into the feral kitty
He's starting
cat.
to change, and he kind of shrinks down, and she was aiming for the big guy, takes her swing, but as he's shrinking down, she misses him because he turns into this little kitty and scurries away under the couch.
I want to give it to Tom Vincent in panel 1. The yellow underlighting looks so fucking good.
Oh yeah.
It's just like this is maybe one of the best analog panels in the book.
Yeah. Do you feel like the yellow is like the light
Perfect.
from the electricity from her fork like shining? Or
I mean, here's the thing, like, yes, but they haven't used that effect anywhere else. I think, what happens is, it happens to everybody, is that you move through these pages and you pick up tricks, and so things sort of evolve as, it's like, oh, I would have, when I was toning Arcane, I ended up going back to the first dozen pages to make adjustments based on what I had learned on page 18.
Right.
But I think that, like, what happened, like, if you look at the fingers, there's a solid line of hatching that divides the yellow from the blue.
mm-hmm.
So there's that shadow area where the two light sources, or whatever it is, sort of get to divide each other.
Yeah.
Classy
And
stuff.
Christine's like, he thought he had me. I thought I had him. We were both wrong. And so he scurries under the couch, and you're like, what?
That's a cool panel. The zigzag motion line and the, like, worm's eye view. Very cool.
Yeah. Next page, we get a Kamiko spread, that great mage ad from last week, and Johnny Quest. Win some Johnny Quest cards.
Johnny Quest cards. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves that Johnny Quest series, huh?
They sure do, yeah.
I have the Dave Stevens cover. No big deal.
I have a couple of them too, but I haven't read them. I was never a huge Johnny Quest fan, but
yeah. Are you a Venture Brothers guy?
I haven't really super got into that either. I feel like I should.
Nor I.
Everyone tells me like you'll love
Everyone
it.
does. I interned on that show like 15, 20 years ago, and I wasn't
Really?
into it, so I don't know what the fuck.
What did you do for an intern on that show? Backgrounds?
Whatever.
Got some
did-
coffees.
I didn't even know how to use Flash, so I wasn't doing a lot.
Ah,
I was trying to use Flash.
gotcha.
I'm sure.
All right, so we're back in. The action's getting crazy. Christine's like screaming, Greenwald, the lights, the switch on the wall next to you. Like Ace Ventura 2. Anyway, she's like, Brian, hit the lights. And he, he does so. So they're looking around. She's like, where did he go? She sees him running to the bathroom. We get a kind of cartoon, he zips through, and all the stuff in the kitchen is flying, and he jumps for the window.
Yeah, this is like a horror movie thing, like a Chucky thing, or like I'm trying to think of the leprechaun, where it's little and
Yeah.
it zips by, and just like things go
and knocks
flying.
everything off the counter,
or in Alien, when the chest burster is kind of like,
it comes out and it's like, hello my baby, hello my honey.
That's the first time I met that franchise, and
Aliens through Spaceballs.
Aliens through Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And also
I'm probably the
Aliens,
same way.
and also Aliens through the children's toy commercials. That
Oh, yeah.
Like they took all these like 80s violent things and they made them for
They
kids.
really did. Now you can be Hicks in the new playset. Grab the machine guns.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. So I like that. The transition on the spread is really cool because it ends with your anticipation that it's going to crash through the window,
Mhm.
but then she throws the thing and it kind of like,
Right.
It-
It like hits the fork and he's like,
whoa.
yeah, like it hits him mid jump.
This is interesting because like not that like this should be a page turn, but it's the kind of vibe that like a page turn, your expectation gets subverted.
Right.
Here, it's not like a big deal, so the expectation is subverted from across the spread. That's kind of interesting.
Look, so we turn the page now. We're on 13. Look at the detail in panel 2 by the plug. There's a tea bag, and Tom Vincent didn't give it a second notice, but Jeremy Cox fully rendered that teabag.
What a slob, BLS.
So now she stops him. He falls on the counter, runs over the coffee, and flings this hot pot.
That's coffee for 50 people too.
That's like, a lot of damn
that's
coffee.
That's like AA coffee. You know?
They knew they'd be sitting there all day. Sitting there for a while.
There you go.
So she's like overly anxious, nearly scalded. Next page, she's got her fork back. She grabs it out the wall and she's like, shit, where'd he go? So they're running and it's like, Brian. And he's like, Chris, over here in the bathroom. Okay. And then so he throws this book at them. I looked that book up. Did you? It is Voices and Hands of Bunraku, which is the Japanese puppet art where you use those puppets to cast a shadow, and they would put on plays and productions of that in that way. So it's like Japanese shadow puppet, a book about that.
That's something that BLS would have.
Yeah. So he throws that book and he's like, Jesus, okay, it's in the bedroom. He's like, calm, Brian, stay behind me. Can't he hold out long enough? Okay, so then they get in it. Next page, we get in the bedroom. They close the door. They're like, if we keep it in here, we can find it.
Look at the cast shadows on the lattice of the window frame.
Love it.
Really cool.
Just there's again, that's one of the things we keep pointing out. These like amazing the shadowing, and so they're looking under the bed. Where's Tujiro? Not in the plant.
I like how they put the camera in the bottom of this box or whatever it is, where she's like,
okay.
You're like looking up and
she's doing that thing
as if you were the monster.
Doing that thing where like police officers in movies, they always like look around corners like with their gun. She's like got her fork out, and she's like using it, like pointing it first into these places where she's looking, and then
these last two are awesome for tension because the camera is static and the contrast is the scale of the doorknob as she reaches and pulls it open, and then just like the reflections in the doorknob are fucking great.
So great. She's ready to skewer. She's hoping to kill, and the kid is comes out and is like, ah. She was gazing down, wasn't expecting him to come from above. Grabs her that classic.
It's on her face.
She's like, rah! Oh my God, scratching and screaming. As long as I live, I'll remember the breath of that cat. And she hits it with the butt of the fork, and it flies out the window with a crash.
Yeah, she throws it like a highlight player.
Yeah, exactly. Crashes out the window, and they both ran to the window. They look out and they don't see it, and they're like, "Oh shit!" A cat always lands on its feet.
Jeremy Cox just makes this work. There's been other God's eye view, bird's eye view shots where you're just like looking down into the urban environment.
Oh right.
And it goes both ways depending on who's doing it. But this one just like it looks so much better.
Yeah, there's so much more environment.
A little bit of texture. Yeah.
He adds the like definitely some computer textures like down the buildings and stuff. Really cool. The bitch was gone. And it was okay. That's when they're starting to hear sirens, and they're like, "Oh shit! Okay, we gotta break." And they kind of like they maybe should have made a plan real quick, but it's kind of left like in the ether, and they just kind of are like break,
I don't think most people are making a plan in this.
No,
book.
They're just like frantic, and they hear
this
the
isn't
sirens.
Really a plan making book.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. And she's like, it's been so very fast, but also very long, and now so very over.
Yeah.
Next page,
and now, the next page, the story evolves. We talked about COP, and just like, okay, like in the beginning, in the first quarter of this book, the cops are just like ineffective, like dudes in suits and ties
eating
Sammys, using like reel-to-reel audio recording, and now they've got like skiffs and like jets and sci-fi guns, and here's Riley. What's his name? Dominic Riley.
Yeah, Riley.
Who's like a man whose father supposedly was killed by Hunter Rose.
Right. And it's like, before they just had an idea, and so they weren't maybe backed by everything, and now they got the money. Grendel's a threat again. They're putting all the big stuff through it. And so that Christine's like out, man. She's going down in the back, and Riley went down the window, or sorry, went down the alley, and he's like,
yeah,
what?
and that's the same camera angle as on the previous page.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, oh, okay, so she's not going down, she's going up. She like went out the window and up to the roof. And so she's kind of scurries away on that, and Brian's like left shocked. And next page, we get a kind of we get a Bugs Bunny moment here where Riley's like got his gun out, he's creeping in, and freaking Nicolo smashes open the door, cracks him in the head, and he's like, woo,
yeah, this is like the cartoony fun.
You're right.
It's just like, you know, if this is plot and script, that is probably all Pander, like the tone of that moment. Like it's a little strange. I do really enjoy Riley's like the brace on his gun.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, and how it hits him back, but it like stays on his hand like a slingshot. You have that thing that like holds your arm and helps you with maybe like with recoil.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know?
Or you know, it looks like the proton pack on the real Ghostbusters toy.
Ah, yeah, yep. That has that little
Yeah, sure, great.
And so he goes up there.
It's just funny how cartoony it gets for a few panels and.
Oh, absolutely. And so he busts in. I mean, he busts right into Brian Lee Sung's a place, and this panel is just amazing.
Yeah.
Brian Lee is like,
can you go back one more?
What's that?
Can you go back just one more
page
to back to 19?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Look at like the way he's sort of climbing out of this last panel, and then the wall in the gutter space, there's wall damage.
Right.
That's a really cool touch, and I sort of wish there was more of it in this book. It's almost like, remember we talked about the clock in the last issue, like the hands of the clock that were the gutters.
Yeah.
It's just like having this like production design element chilling in the gutters is super cool. I really enjoy that.
It's really creative to like have, again, stopped the panel, have that drop shadow on the panel.
Yeah.
And just have the wall damage.
And his elbow is coming out. It's just like, you know, there's a little, I think that the breaking emphasizes the urgency and the movement and the tension and all these kinds of things. I don't know if, you know, maybe 20% of the time it's not totally necessary because it's just like, it's a little much, but it definitely keeps things like super frantic.
Agreed.
Cool.
And fun.
Oh, you know what I noticed also?
Mm-hmm.
On 19, there's a little bit of a coloring shift on panel 2. There's this yellow strip because the door is slamming open.
Oh, right.
So when the door opens up, a little bit of light comes out of the room. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's great detail.
Here's your big BLS in front of the broken Venetian blinds. Amazing.
Just a beautiful panel. I think that I saw that this page is for sale on the Pander's Etsy. I went on the Pander's Etsy this week to like look at all the pages they have. God, man, I want to spend the money on a page, but it looks so good. And they had the comics interview cover that you could buy. And all right, so here's where the cops, you really see these like thugs, and he's like, "All right, Lee Sung, no bullshit. I saw her on the roof. What happened?" And he's ready to bust them. And they're gonna bring him in. Yeah,
their uniforms remind me of those like paramilitary future look of the cops in The Fifth Element.
Ah, yes, agreed.
And like, see this striped, black and red striped. It's yellow. I was literally gonna say it should be yellow because it's supposed to look like a police line do not cross kind of construction thing. So I think
it's yellow in the Dark Horse and the Omnibus, but it's red in the Kamiko.
I am really curious, and I don't ask this to bust balls or to like, oh gotcha, where's my fucking no prize? But I am really curious, like why and how COP develops this way, seemingly off camera.
Right. I think that there is some in the incubation years. I'm not positive.
Yeah, but that's after. That loops back.
Right.
I haven't read it, so I don't fucking know.
There's some more stuff after Brian Lee Sung with Wiggins. yeah, we're gonna get into finding out a little bit more about that. I think there is
I mean,
some information.
Yeah, but in real time of 1987, it just shows up.
Right. True. Yeah.
You know,
Like what happened between the 80s and this is 2020s.
or what happened in issues 1, 2, and 3 and this moment.
Right. True.
That's really what I'm trying to say. Remember we were talking earlier about like finding techniques that work and then being like, oh man, I wish I'd figured that out earlier or whatever. The lighting and shadowing on BLS in panel 3, where they do that like hard line on his side and it divides the two tones is,
yeah.
I feel like we haven't really seen that before. It looks really cool.
Yeah. And it's fine lines. Like it's not those great Pander heavy duty lines. It's like very fine.
And I think that actually really describes what their inking style is, because like Jay Geldof has a very graphic style where it looks like a sticker. You know, it looks like it's been vectorized. Remember, we saw Jay Geldof doing like those zigzags with like a chisel tip.
Right. Exactly.
You go like thick, pivot, thick. You know, like that.
Yeah.
And here it's just like it's very graceful.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Cool. And then the next page, we have a newscast, a news broadcast that kind of goes over everything we've been seeing in the last couple issues, like just that, you know, the Kabuki Theater had been showing up every night. They had their long run at the theater here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And last night, a tragedy killed every single person in the crew, you know, canceling the remainder of the troops' run at the Imperial. Also apprehended was Nicolo Estes, which is, you know, the nub guy. So he did get caught. Brush top. Yep. Yeah. And police say Mr. Estes was in shock when arrested and has been unavailable for questioning.
No, now he's in shock.
Well, yeah. Now that he was able to take some time and realize his hands got cut off, and so
this scene really, like, there's like 6 more pages in the issue, but it's really like everything that starting with this page, it's all epilogue,
right?
Of that, you know, of that scene, which is structurally kind of interesting because like there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen after this scene that, like you said, just sort of recaps.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if in plot and script, if it was just like very not vague, but like simple. And Matt's like, I'm just going to figure out a way to recap everything and move things forward a little bit. So like, you know, just come up with something very, very simple.
Yeah, kind of like to put a bow on everything, to kind of like, now that we're at this point, let's like bring everything back together so you can see all the like
because the visual point of this page is the reveal that like we're doing full on Grendel news coverage.
Right.
But I feel like they were doing that in the last issue.
Well, I think it was like it might be Grendel.
It might be
hearing
Grendel, and
rumblings,
now it's definitely Grendel.
Right? And now it's like Grendel's back.
It says Grendel.
Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So then we get back and we see that Christine on the next page was watching this news in a shop window on her way. She's packed and ready to get out of town.
That's a flat screen TV.
That is, yeah. Why didn't BLS have one of those? Anyway, she's got a rose, of course.
It's a new model, incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
HBW right. 624.
Hey, incredible. Okay, so now she's like, all right, it's me, Tujiro, just stymied, exiled, baby. Society, invigorated, entertained, even. Me, deadened.
I want to talk about the electronics more, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the speakers on...
The speakers are on lamp. They're just like on...
Yeah, they're like on the arm that my, like, like microphone. So yeah, so this is like the rose is symbolic, I guess, of Hunter Rose, of her son, like of putting a flower on a grave almost. It's like here's this final thing towards.
I like the caption that you just read where she talks about how society is drawing amusement, like it's like the TMZ, the World Star, the paparazzi that we sort of like get like Schadenfreude thrills from. Me, deadened. Girl, you're the one who started. Like, not only are you like going out killing 20 people dressed up as Grendel. Like, you wrote the book on it. Like what
brought
did
it
you
into
think
the
was going to happen?
zeitgeist.
Yeah. Like, it could have, like, if you didn't do that, like, we wouldn't be here. So
Right. I mean, that's like that's like Matt wrote Mage and then actually somehow went out and found a bat that would light up and then started like battling creatures,
beating the shit
and
out
then,
of people.
yeah, and then being surprised when people are like, "Oh, Mage is here," and he's like, And so, okay, so she seemingly, I envision that she put this flower down like on the ground in front of this TV.
Or it's Brennan in the river fighting Lovecraftian fish monsters.
Exactly. So then she heads out. She's like done, and you can see behind her here on page 23, this like girl has a huge gun.
Yeah. So like that kind of like vicious aggression society satire is it's now like it's bubbling up because like there's we talked about the like the mutant people eating the McDonald's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, and we joked about Funky Town and like how it's like our comments about Funky Town was never, oh, society is obviously crumbling. It's just like things are a little strange, and now it's like, well, like this is what it is. And I think that you can draw a parallel between that and the development of COP.
Yeah, for sure. Well. And having to perhaps militarize themselves because of this rise of violence and stuff. And even copycats of the Grendel mythos, because like you said, we start to really see that. Now, there's some interesting color here on panel 2 in the Kamiko. It's sloppy at best. It's strange. It's a strange choice. It's just like, it's just like color. No, her hair. It's kind of like, it's just like a splotch of color. Perhaps it was like hard to read.
That's the 11th hour, my man.
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, someone else is cutting the plate.
Right, and it's hard to cut that jagged edge, and it's not easy to probably do.
Well, that's the thing, is that the people that do the separations are, Tom Vincent does the guide, and then it's late in the book, and also this is late in the book, and this one took extra time presumably because of all the inking bells and whistles that went into it. But then whoever cuts the separations at the printing house,
right,
they're not an artist, and they're not talking with the inker. They're
not going to spend the time to cut out each and every one of those hairs.
Sloppy at best, you say.
I guess I was unfamiliar with the process.
No, I'm teasing you. It does look a lot better when it's more refined by Jeremy Cox. In the same thing with those highlights on the cushion inside the cab, looks a lot cooler, and there's rendering on the cab. I mean, the difference here is one person has time and the other one doesn't.
Right, and the luxury of computer versus having to cut the steps, like you said. So Christine's on her way to the airport. She is ready to get on out of Dodge. And
there's a COP.
Yeah, who kind of looks at her, and we find out that she doesn't make it out of town really unnoticed anyway. But the last thing
is there it's Rent-A-Cop.
Oh, is that what it says on?
It says Rent-A-Cop, and he's got this huge like Uzi.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Oh, do you see this? You see the painter in the background?
Oh, yeah.
In Funky
crazy.
Town?
I love they spend so much detail on all these little people. I love the background.
Yeah.
The background characters.
Cool.
So on the next page, one last thing before she leaves town completely, she has a letter to Brian that she seals with some tears.
A P letter, not an E letter. A paper letter.
Right, exactly. Not an email or something.
Not an electronic letter. I love how exaggerated her handwriting is. If you do it that way, it might not get delivered.
Really?
I'm talking to Christine.
Oh yeah, you got to make sure that's clear.
This sequence of the tear
and no return address. Come on.
Well, she got to cover tracks. The tear fall is really nice. It's very very Dave McKean Arkham Asylum.
slow-mo, like this slow-mo tear.
Yeah, and just like the anatomical detail in these first two panels, like it's almost in like the Michael Zulli cross-hatching range.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really cool.
All right, and on the next page, she's just contemplating her time. She's waxing about everything. And right as she's dropping it in the mail, we see Ginny pass right behind her.
Yeah.
Without noticing what's happening, because Ginny's so focused on her thing. She can't. Christine can't help but think about the darkness, and the reason and the result.
She flies back to New York in the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
Super
right.
Cool.
And she's just, we really are getting like Captain's log here, Grendel's log. She's laying it out.
No bra.
Yeah, that's a cool shirt. But no, it never works like you think it's going to work out. And then we get next page, we get a true epilogue where we see a kid hoverboarding, who's like, "Quah, quah, rad without wheels." He like throws his, and then he hears a cat food can drop. And he's like, "Hey, easy on the flings, dude." This is like a kid who's got his like slang going on. And he looks down.
Is he a kid or is he a man? It's hard to say.
Yeah, maybe he's like a teen. Maybe he's a teenager.
Oh, cute little
And he's
kitty.
like, "Hey, look at you, little puss. Dig the hair. What's your name?" And then it's like, bam, bam, bam. Next time on Tujiro.
I love when the lens flare on the eyeball happens. You can hear the anime sound effect. Bing,
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool. I mean, this is kind of gross because like it's eating a cartoon fishbone. It's eating a Heathcliff fishbone with an X over the eye. And it still has the X over the eye in the close-up, which is tremendous. But like this guy, like, "Oh, garbage kitty eating rotten food. You're so cute."
So cute. Look at your snarling mouth and your giant teeth.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So then we get the letters column, Grendel's Lair. This is one that actually Diana highlighted last week in the Dark Horse, where this young woman from Titusville, Florida says, "I enjoy the continuing evolution of Grendel's story very much. The story anyway. The artwork sucketh. If that doesn't change, I won't be able to stomach the book, even for the sake of the wonderful psychological plotting."
Ouch.
That's when Diana's like, "Sucketh?" That's it. That's the only response. So next week's looking good.
Why run such a letter?
I think, Diana, again, doesn't suffer fools, and she's not like taking shit. So she's
that's why, just to be like, "You're a fucking idiot."
So here we get more photos from this amazing trip that they took, the Comic Legal Defense Fund.
Oh, Matt was telling you all about that.
Right, Matt. Oh my gosh. It seems amazing. And we were right. It was like, the Star Trek cruise where all the talent was paid to be there. And they did some speaking appearances. They did like symposium type of deals where they would talk about art. And so here we see some of these amazing photos from the thing. We get Chris Orr, we get Barb Schutz, Matt's wife, Frank Miller, Charles Brownstein, Bob Schreck. Matt was telling us this amazing story where they all were taken to this amazing dinner at the top of this mountain, and they ordered a bunch of meals, and the waiter was like, "It's going to take a little while to get all these meals. Do you guys want to go jump off this cliff or jump off this bridge?" And they're like, "Jump off the bridge." And so one of the waiters or busboys took them down to this like glorious oasis with like a bridge and crystal blue waters, and they all swam around before their meals got there. And it just sounded like this amazing time. An unforgettable event in comic book history for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sweet. So yeah,
there's a few of these where it looks like it's fans who made their way into them.
Right. Yeah. Well. Okay, so the fans were in it, and so the fans were,
right.
They paid for this experience to be one-on-one with the creators. And Matt said everyone, like all the fans were super cool. Like there was never this like I'm the zoo creature in this the zoo afloat at sea. It was all very cool. Everyone was cool. So looks
All right.
beautiful. Yeah.
Sounds great. All right. Well,
Next week.
we'll go next time. CLBDF.
Yeah.
Wait, we're never cruising again. What am I talking about? What's up next week? We got
it's
10?
issue 8. Issue 8. Yeah. And it looks like with Tujiro behind her, Christine returns to New York and now must face Hunter Rose's nemesis, Argent.
All right.
So yeah,
finally.
we see the first introduction of Argent and Christine.
Oh, this is the one where they.
I read a little forward.
Everyone BLS on this one.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the cops come in and they're both kind of getting interrogated, but we'll leave that to next week.
Yeah, Wiggins smokes weed this entire issue.
Smokes his little. All right. Next week,
Great.
Vivat Grendel and keep on Grenelin, Ben.
Yeah.
See you guys next week on The Devil in Detail.